Stormy times and God's assurance. That's how I want to call that story, that true account that happened some 3,000 years ago in the land of Israel. Now Elijah, he was a man of our mighty God, and he went through a stormy time in his life. In our text today, we heard some of the miracles that the Lord did through him, and they were amazing. As I said at the beginning, God can do great things, amazing things, but sometimes he disappoints as well. When we have looked at something and appointed it on a place where it shouldn't be, and the Lord says, no, this is not what I want for you at this time in your life. So we're not looking at the great miracles that were performed, but we're looking at a time that came sort of afterwards. He had just spoken to Ahab the second time, and King Ahab still wanted to kill him, but he told him, you summon Israel and your prophets of Baal, your 400 and how many there were, and you come to the Mount of Carmel. And there God showed himself as the one that answers through fire. He not only accepted that sacrifice that Elijah brought there, but he consumed the wood, the stone, the water that was around it. And the false prophets of Baal, they cried out the whole morning until the afternoon that their God would send fire, but nothing came. So there's only one true God. Amen. And he is the God who is here with us now, who is with us in our challenges, in our situations that disappoint us, that we don't understand. Our text comes from 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 1 to 9. Elijah flees to Horeb. Now Ahab told Jezebel everything Elijah had done, and how he had killed all the prophets with a sword, prophets of Baal. So Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah to say, may the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them. Elijah was afraid and ran for his life. When he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servants there, while he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness. He came to a broom bush, sat down under it, and prayed that he might die. I have had enough, Lord, he said. Take my life. I'm no better than my ancestors. Then he lay down under the bush and fell asleep. All at once an angel touched him and said, get up and eat. He looked around, and there by his head was some bread baked over hot coals and a jar of water. He ate and drank, and then lay down again. The angel of the Lord came back a second time and touched him and said, get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you. So he got up and ate and drank. Strengthened by that food, he traveled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God. There he went into a cave and spent the night. This is how far we go this morning. So Elijah took to his heels. He had seen the power of God, but at this time it didn't mean anything to him. He seemed to have forgotten everything. He was complaining to God that all the prophets were killed. He was the only one left. And now I wanted to get to him as well. And we know these high times, maybe when we were on a Christian time away, or we had some great prayer requests that were answered. But I think we also know times when it goes the other way. Elijah, he had just done a fast gallop of 40 k's, and he outrun a chariot. He was full of courage when he spoke to Ahab. But then the soldier came and said, tomorrow this time, heads off. And it says, Elijah was afraid. Other translation says, and Elijah saw and ran for his life. So was it fear or was it the will to continue his life? He was running. And I think we know this situation where we just don't see a way out. And to get a death threat from the queen of the country is no little thing. That is something very essential. I mean, that is, your life gone, really. When the government has decided that you're gone, usually you are gone. And this queen was the government. It was an evil government. I don't know what we would have said, what we would have done in this situation. He ran about 173 k's to Jezreel, from Jezreel to Beersheba, and the fear was in him. And it wasn't the fear of God, it was the fear of man. Fear is the strongest human emotions that we have. The strongest feelings of human experience. In Germany, about 50% of all Germans, Carl, you'd be interested in that, they have a sick kind of fear that is diagnosed by 50% of Germans. I'm not sure how it works for Zimbabweans. I think they make more plans, so it's probably less. Maybe it's more, I don't know. But if fear becomes a sickness, life is difficult. God knows us, and He knows that we are fearful. And what do you think the most frequently used sentence in the Bible is? A 3-word sentence in that context. The Lord said it to Mary and to Zacharias, to His disciples. He said it to His disciples, to Elisa's servant, and He says it to us today. He said it to Joshua, these 3 words. They are? Come again? Don't be afraid, or do not fear, yes. Why do you think that sentence is so often in the Bible? Be still, my soul, and know that I am God. Do not fear. To Elisha's servant he said, do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are against us. He said it to Joshua in Joshua 1 verse 9, do not fear, be bold, be strong, because I, the Lord, am with you. In Jeremiah, do not fear, I am the Lord who will save you. The Lord knows us. Jesus came to this world in human flesh, and the Lord knows us through and through, and He knows us, and He knows that we are fearful, that there are things, that there are people, that there are times that we fear. And if you are a Christian and you are fearful, you're not on the wrong track. Why would the Lord otherwise say so many times, do not fear? Because He knows that we are people who fear things, fear relationships, we fear the weather, we fear when our job comes to an end, we fear the end of the month when the bills mount up. We have many things and people that we fear. And the Lord does not leave us in the lurch with it. The Lord knows what we're going through, and He says, I am with you. Be strong, be bold, for I, the Lord, am with you. So I think the one thing we can learn from Elijah at this time is that we remember who God is. That we remember how He helped us in the past. And so many times if we look back, we will see that the mountains behind us are often taller than the ones in front of us. And it should be clear to us that, of course, the Lord will guide us through this present suffering and this present difficulty as well. But we forget about yesterday. So remember God's help and God's faithfulness in the past. And if Elijah would have thought a bit more about that, maybe he wouldn't have run. The Lord made him run all the way back again afterwards to go right again into Israel and appoint a new king and do all these things and appoint a new servant, a prophet who would be after him. So remember past occasions where the Lord helped you through things. And the second, do not fear, because the Lord is with you. Elijah is told by the angel, get up and eat, because the journey is too much for you. He went on and he walked 40 days and 40 nights. That is too much for any of us. However many Ironman we run, 40 days and 40 nights we cannot walk through. So it was too much for Elijah. And things are too much for us sometimes as well. And the Lord knows our power level and how low it can get. We heard that you only had like 4 hours at the beginning of the year of Zesa, and that even the batteries weren't charged up anymore. So we know about low energy in Zimbabwe. And the Lord knows who we are. And he says, do not fear, do not let this news and this fake news get you down. And I think as Zimbos, you're very good at looking at positive things and trying to block out the negatives. And I think it is good to focus on positives. But also face the negatives with the knowledge that the Lord is there with you and you do not have to fear it. There's a Swiss author, my wife is Swiss, so I have to mention this author here, and he wrote a book called Stars Shine at Night. His name is Thomas Harry. And he says, most people in the Bible accept the fact that they can only understand God to a degree. But what is open to them and us is that we acknowledge the Lord in all our ways. It says here in Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all your strength, acknowledge or submit to the Lord, and he will make your path straight. So in this situation where we just don't know what's going on, we are called to, even if we don't understand God, to acknowledge him, to understand he is going with us through it. We might think this is complete chaos now. This is a mistake. God, you're doing a mistake here. I remember a young man whose father died as a missionary in Ireland, and he left behind this son who was in his teenage years, and the daughter and the mother. And when he got baptized, he went to the front and he said, I forgive you, God. Of course, theologically wrong, but we know what he meant. For him, this was a mistake. Why should my father die? I'm in a foreign country, my father dies, my mother is here, and they continued as missionaries. Sometimes it feels like a mistake to us. Sometimes it hurts us. The title of that book is also To Love God in Suffering. And I don't think that is something that comes easy to us. So our first point was to remember the past and how the Lord has helped you through it. The second, to not fear what's ahead. To know that the Lord is with us, what we're going through. And to acknowledge the Lord in our ways, even in those times where we are fearful, where we are crying, where we have pain. And so it was a dark phase in Elijah's life, in Elijah's ministry. He was one of the three that appeared on the Mount of Transfiguration in Matthew 17. He stood there for all the prophets, and he was called a prophet that put everything right again. But at this time of his life, he had to put his inside right again. He had to get right again with God. He didn't know what was going on. He just knew that soldier came and he told him the day after tomorrow, no, tomorrow you'll have your head off. And it's interesting that Jezebel didn't send a soldier to kill him, but she sent a soldier to tell tomorrow at this time. Why do you think that is? Why didn't she just send someone to get his head off, get it done and over with? I think sometimes the fear of something can be worse of the thing itself. And if you know the Pilgrim's Progress, one of the enemies of Christian is the big I. And the big I sometimes comes, and it sounds like soldiers and all sorts of evil thing, and then it passes you and it's gone, and it was nothing. And so many times we fear something that is not actually going to happen. Again, Thomas Harry says in his book, there's one group of person that you will always have amongst your listeners in the service. People who are going at this time through suffering, through heavy suffering. Even in our advanced and on first sight so tidy seeming world of Europe, where we are now, Silke, David, Josh and I, even there, suffering and pain is everywhere. It's of course not so visible to the eye as it often is here when we go to the vacation and when we go to the children's home. But don't make a mistake. You know, Europe is not a place of milk and honey. I know everyone wants to run away, and when we came to Zim in 2003, we felt a bit like Fireman Sam, because everyone was going out and we were going in. But I can tell you, Europe is not what it promises to be. There are just as many people who are fearful, just as many people who worry about tomorrow. And things are not as square even as they used to be 17 years ago before we came. We do have power cuts now in Germany. I mean, here, you know, we don't even think of it. There, it's like, I mean, everything breaks down, you know, without power. We also had water restrictions for the first time since the Second World War. So we're not used to make plans like that. Yeah, we cannot find security in a certain place, in a certain country. Our security can only be in God. If our security is not in God, we will fear things, and even with God, we will still fear things. But the good thing, if we are with God, He will help us through the difficult times. He knows that we are fearful, and He comes to comfort us and to help us through the difficult times. In 2018, we learned in counseling that someone who hears about someone going through a trauma can have the same symptoms as the person who actually experienced that trauma. So just hearing about it can do something with you. So the fear of something can make you sick as well. And it can give you the same symptoms as the one who actually had that violence or what it was done to him. So fear, of course, in Germany, in the Third Reich, it was, you know, a German soldier doesn't fear, which was absolute rubbish. You do fear, and there's a healthy fear. And fear helps you to be not too stupid as well, not to take too many risks. But there's a a fear that makes you sick as well. And that is where the Lord says, do not fear, for I am with you. Remember what He's done for you in the past. Do not fear, even though things look fearful and are fearful to us. And acknowledge the Lord that He is in this thing, that He is going with you through the difficulty. You probably heard from our newsletters and from calls that we didn't find it easy to go back to Germany. I know Karl would be there in no time because, I'm sure he's got his lederhosen back home somewhere. He's always giving me a stick of being German. So it was very hard for us to go back to Germany, even though we see it as God's way. We do miss you, we do miss the friends. I do miss Satsa as well. And we miss the lifestyle here as well. And so in the beginning, we didn't know what we would be doing, so we had different ways with our mission. We could have gone, but we didn't see that as God's way, so we parted from the mission, we left the compound there. I had my thyroid out, which was free there, so Kevin said, just go over there and get it sorted there. But that had obviously an impact on me as well. We moved, as I said, twice. We looked at what we would be doing, and in the end, I'm working for Love is More now, a Christian organization that works in purity, so that helps people to stay on the right pages on the internet, so especially with pornography, there's help. And I really, am privileged to be in that ministry. And then I also work for intensive care, children's home-based care organization. Silke is working in the kindergarten there, is 50%. But to get there was a long way. And we just, we prayed and we just, we didn't hear the Lord. And also before we went to Zimbabwe, we had prayed that God would send us there, and then when we went to Germany again, we said, Lord, when is the right time? And we just didn't hear Him as well. And I've got a lot of friends who hear the Lord, who get direct kind of instructions, but we didn't hear, and it just, that back and fro didn't fit for us anymore as a family. And we said, okay, so we go there and see what the Lord has got. But it was not easy for us. And Silke cried many tears, and I, for the first time when we came now, was able to cry again. I couldn't cry there. So I think it's a healing time for us now here to be in Zimbabwe again. So my dad died as well, so our plate was pretty full, and in the end I also get a depression on top of that. A clinical depression. Thankfully I didn't have to go into the clinic, and it's working with tablets and with therapy. And I'm very grateful to the Lord that He has given us this help as well. No one would ever say, well, you've got a broken leg, just pray and read the Bible a bit more. When the soul, has some problems, people say, well, can a Christian have that? Of course we can have that. What did Elijah say when he sat under that broom tree? Let me die. So he was suicidal. And he said, I had enough. And I don't know if you have ever been at a point like this. Maybe I can ask for a show of hands. Have you ever been at a point where you said, Lord, I had enough. I do not want to carry on. Not something else on top. Have you ever had a time when you were disappointed with God? And I think that there's no shame in admitting it, because we all have been there. God can disappoint, because sometimes we appoint things that shouldn't be appointed. Be it a relationship, be it our job, be it the car, be it another person, something that we almost made, taken for granted or almost made into an idol, where God has to say, sorry, this is not what I have for you. God brings through tough times. Elijah, he was in panic. He ran. And he did a journey of about 200 k's altogether. And again, Isabel said, tomorrow this time, the head will be off. And that is a scare technique of the devil. That he makes us fear something that will actually never happen. God has a plan. And that might look different from ours. And Elijah certainly thought that, that is not what I signed up for. And also that missionary in Ireland, the wife left behind with 2 kids. We don't understand God, but can we acknowledge Him? Can we submit to Him and say, yes, Lord? It's easy to sing, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. But when it hurts, what do? Can we remember what He's done for us? Can we try to hold on to Him and not to fear? Can we acknowledge Him in our way and to know, okay, I've got my Zimbo plan, but I think the heavenly plan is better. The last point, do not believe the lies of the devil. Now there might be news, there might be fake news. Chances are they will never come to actually happen. Elijah, he went to sleep. He was at the end of his wisdom, at the end of his faith. And the Lord sent this angel to feed him. And after he had 2 portions of that power drink, and nothing, Red Bull or something is like, nothing, it's like less than water compared with that stuff that the Lord gave to him there. The Lord has ways to get us going. And by the way, we can also learn these 3 little things that can be very important if we are in a low. The first time He gave to Elijah was sleep. Very important to sleep. And my depression started like most of the depressions was I couldn't sleep. Just woke up 3 o'clock in the morning and I just could not go to sleep. And if you don't sleep for a year, you don't look good. So make sure you can sleep. Be that with tablets or however. Then to eat well. Of course that can be difficult because it's a money issue as well, but to eat healthily. And when he had eaten, what did he do? He exercised. So sleep, food, and exercise. Something very basic, but something we can draw from this text as well. God has a plan and God can bring us through and will bring us through it. And we don't know where we are at this time before the end, end times. I think we are in a storm, aren't we, worldwide? Things are happening and, how people can say, well, we've always had some things going wrong in the world and so on, but to have that in such proximity as we have it now, the sun being too hot, we lost about 20,000 people in Germany to the hot sun last year, about 8,000 so far now. Of course, Israel was reinstated as a state in 1948, this was in our century. The evil we have with gender stuff, thankfully in Zimbabwe we are more healthy than South Africa and the West, but we have things going on that we cannot explain away anymore. The diseases, the earthquakes, we know that the Lord is coming and He's coming soon. It was soon 2,000 years ago, how much sooner is it now? So let us be prepared, there will be storms coming, and they will not be nice. But let us remember in them what the Lord has done and will do for us again. Let us not fear, but to hang on to Him. Let us submit, acknowledge Him in the difficulties, and not believe the lies of the devil. Let us have the faith that Elijah had and be encouraged by him, by the Lord. In His name. Bless you.